Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast, the podcast all about living and studying at Lund University in Sweden. Hear from current students, alumni, researchers, professors, and many more special guests as we dive into life at one of Sweden and Europe's top universities. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer at the Division of Communication. Today, we're diving into one of the most glamorous and unforgettable parts of student life in Lund, the student ball. With deep roots in history and tradition, student balls are more than just parties. They're formal celebrations filled with elegance, music, and a true sense of community. If you've ever wondered what a ball is like, how international students can join, or why everyone looks so fancy in tuxedos and ball gowns, you're in the right place. We'll also hear personal stories, practical tips, and why attending at least one ball should be on every Lund student's bucket list. Get ready to step into the world of student balls at Lund University. And we have two student guests with us today, Kleia and Megan. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
Megan, you're a friend of the show.
Yes, I am. I've been on a few times.
Fantastic to have you back.
Thank you.
Remind us what you're studying.
Yeah. So I'm Megan, or Meg, from the US, and I just graduated from my master's in applied cultural analysis.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we have Kleia with us as well.
Yes, my name is Kleia. I am from Sweden. Well, I grew up here, and I study a bachelor's in English literature.
Yeah. Lovely. What exactly is a student ball?
Gosh, it is everything and anything. A student ball technically is a very, very, very fancy dinner, white tie dress code with a lot of weird traditions. It stems originally from students wanting to be like the fancy posh people in Stockholm. So that's why they have all these like very fancy, very expensive and extravagant outfits and traditions and food served, because who says you can't be fancy and posh as in a student budget?
The one time we can be fancy and posh.
Yeah, exactly.
So for the students that see photos of, or the future students that see photos of student balls on social media, it's not that fancy all the time at Lund?
Well, absolutely not. Yeah. No. If you see a student dressed as a Smurf, that's probably more likely than the ball attire.
That's less fancy.
Yeah.
What makes attending a ball so much fun and such a unique part of student life?
I would say it's something that you don't really get to experience otherwise. Like, I can only compare it back home to like a student prom. So maybe once in your life in the US, you get to dress up in this kind of floor-length gown and really get that experience. And the student ball is yet another opportunity for that. There are rules and regulations about how you dress and how you act at the ball. And it's kind of like a step back into time where you get to experience something that students for generations before you have also experienced. And so it's really cool to kind of not only get that, but then to sometimes have those prior students with you as well. We get a lot of alumni who come to the balls too. So it's a coming together of generations that you might not get to see otherwise at Lund.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it is an event that just kind of creates a community with people that you wouldn't really have a community with. I know that when we had a nations ball, I mean, I didn't know everyone from my nation and my like club, but it was really fun to see that all these people, you know, have been here for years. And it like you said, it takes you back in time. Some of these balls are from the 1800s and 1700s. It's kind of insane that we've kept up these traditions.
Yeah.
Lovely. I'm really excited to ask you about your own memorable ball experiences. Shall we just jump to that question? So you've both been to student balls, right?
Yes.
Please tell us about your memories and your most memorable experiences.
I can go first. Kleia's got quite the list of student balls. I'm one of the students that believed that you should go to at least one as a student. So I went to mine last semester. It was actually Kalmar Nations, Dresscode, which happens every 2 years, I believe.
Yes.
So if you come and you have the opportunity to go, it was amazing. I can totally recommend. But I had the opportunity to work as a student marshal, which means in this giant ballroom, we were in AF Borgen, which is like the student life center of Lund. There's tables filled with students, and then there are marshals at the end of each table who are kind of in charge of making sure that you don't get too rowdy, that you're quiet during the speeches, that you're not standing on the tables with your drinks, things like that. So yes, the balls are formal, but there also is like a special aspect, a special energy to them as well. So I went to that ball and it was white tie. So we will talk about the dress code in a little bit because it's quite strict. I got a beautiful dress. I got to wear one of those cute little like Swedish sailor hats as part of my marshal outfit. And it was incredible. It was a 3-course meal. And Kroppkaken, for anybody who's not aware, Kalmar is a place in Småland, which is the region above Skåne. And it basically is a like potato dumpling filled with meat that they fry in butter and serve with cream and lingonberry sauce. It is super, super rich, but delicious. And they even do like a little competition to see who can eat the most. So that was my ball experience in a nutshell. And I would totally go back as an alumni. Kleia, what you got?
Oh, gosh. Well, I have a lot of memorable experiences. I do have to say some of them I don't necessarily remember. There is...
I know a good ball.
But ultimately, I think one of my favorite experiences was Storaste Kroppkaken. But not... Well, this one that I planned as well, but the one previous to that. Because it was also my first time going to a ball. And I also went as a marshal my first time because it was half price.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pay that much money for a ball that I've never been to. But I remember having so much fun and just kind of being in awe and shock over all these people that maybe they didn't know each other, but they were all just kind of so excited to see everything happening.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember leaving that ball at around 4 a.m. Kind of. And it was snowing outside. And I remember walking outside and it was snowing. It was mid-March. And I thought it was the most magical moment in Lund. It was a vibe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I've had a bunch of other moments. It's definitely a lot more fun to go with friends. So most of my memories from balls surround my friends and what funs we had together. I think one ball, someone had a sword at a pre-party, and we opened champagne bottles with a sword. It was very fun.
Ooh.
Nice. Sounds interesting.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in and add, as a host, when I was an international student, I went to a ball in the Grand Hotel, and it was amazing. Everyone in ball gowns, frocks, top experience. Perhaps my best experience as an international student.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a glowing review for everyone listening.
How can international students attend a ball?
I mean, I think it's the difficulty of entering a ball varies. I would say based on what it is. But ultimately in Lund, there's at least 20 to 30 balls per semester. Yes, there's a lot of balls. And I mean, there's some smaller ones that maybe happen in not one of the fancy buildings that we have, like not in AF Borgen, or maybe in AF Borgen, but in a smaller hall. But every organization in Lund will eventually plan a ball. That's kind of a guarantee. If it's like all the nations have at least one ball per year, like academic year, and then every union usually has a ball, and sometimes organizations have a ball. I remember going to, not attending, but I remember possibly thinking about attending, I think, the UPF's ball. So it's like organizations that could be small or could be like really big with like thousands of members, and they all really they really love hosting such events.
Yeah.
It's very fun. So I would say get active in something you enjoy in Lund, and chances are they'll organize a ball soon enough.
So the tip is to be involved in student life, join a nation or an association or a union, get involved and go from there?
Yes, exactly.
The information will come to you.
The information will come to you.
The opportunities will come to you.
Find any small interest you have and join the associated society that surrounds it, and you're good to go.
Nice. And to an outsider, balls in Lund look quite formal. Almost looks like a Nobel Prize dinner or something, if I'm why do students dress so formally?
Well, I went into it a little bit earlier, but the story goes.
Oh, you've got some history, Kleia.
So I'm gonna lore drop. So back in the day, there were two big universities in Sweden. It was the Uppsala University and it was Lund University. Lund University, unfortunately, was founded a little bit later, but we don't worry about it. We don't think about that. We are obviously better. But so since Uppsala University is like max an hour away from Stockholm, that is where all the rich children were sent to study. Like everyone that was a knight or part of the court, the royal court, would send their children to Uppsala because obviously it's closer, you want them close to home. Lund was more like poor man's university.
Nice.
Obviously, back in the day, not poor man's university. It was still quite expensive, but it was not the nobility. It was middle class people. And you know, they got frustrated at some point. They were like, yeah, okay, but like we can have fancy dinners, fancy time without, you know, being all that. So they started hosting these like small dinners maybe, or a gathering, and they would wear a tuxedo or a ball gown, and they would create these like medals that would resemble order medals from the nobility. But, you know, they would actually be something really stupid or really, like, silly. And, yeah, it stemmed from the middle class making fun of the nobility. Obviously, now things are a lot more even across the board in the universities. So, you know, Uppsala has their own balls and Lund University has its own balls and stuff. But, yeah, it's... It was an excuse to pretend to be fancy for a day. To pretend to, you know, have that much money and be that well connected.
Yeah. And for the students wondering now, like, okay, but what does that mean? Like, do I need to go spend 8,000 crowns on a dress? No.
You can.
You can. You definitely can, especially if you think you're going to go to a few balls. Yeah. There are dress codes like for the white tie events. And when you sign up for a ball, you will receive information about what the dress code is. So for example, like for Kalmar's, it was white tie. So for example, you could wear a frack, and it's important to note here that it's not gender specific. So you are welcome to wear whatever you are most comfortable in. There are plenty of people in Kalmar who wore fracks who also wore dresses at the next ball. So it's whatever you're most comfortable with. And a frack, for those of you that don't know, is like the tailcoat that's kind of a penguin suit. So it's got like the tails at the end. You could wear ball gowns, so like a full-length ball evening gown that covers your feet. A lot of people wear like arm's length or elbow length white gloves with that. Always feels super fancy. You also had the option of wearing a folk costume. So if you had like a traditional costume, you could wear that from Sweden or from your home country if you have one of those. And I think military dress was also allowed.
Military dress is allowed if it's Swedish military dress. Mm-hmm. If it's not Swedish military dress, you have to technically get permission from your embassy and from the government, the Swedish government, to wear it, because otherwise it could be considered a threat.
Interesting.
I didn't know this until last semester when I had to plan the ball.
Yeah.
And my father, who used to be in the Greek Navy, was thinking about attending with his uniform, and then he called up a friend who kind of was just like, no. You should not.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Interesting. Okay, so definitely you can always check with the people organizing the ball.
Always check with people organizing the ball.
Any doubts?
Yes. Usually, like you said, people would send out an email. The organizers will send out an email or something like that with, you know, details about the dress code.
Yeah.
Some balls are more strict than others. I remember going to one that was very, very strict about shoulders showing.
Yeah.
I felt very 1800s.
Yeah.
It would be scandalous to show my shoulders, but you know, there's balls that are a lot more lax with rules like this. As long as you wear a fancy dress, for example, a fancy ball gown that, you know, does not go above your ankle, and as long as your tailcoat looks well polished and just ready to be worn. Yeah.
And like, it's important to note, if you are going to go to a lot of balls, a lot of people invest and they maybe like buy a frack because it's cheaper than renting one out. There are options to rent. I actually went to a secondhand shop. Lund is amazing for secondhand shopping. I went to a cute little vintage shop downtown and I got my ball gown for like 800 crowns. So yeah, you definitely have the option if you'd like to go secondhand instead. Or I had plenty of people even in the nation who said, I have plenty, you can borrow one. Yeah. So tap into your network. It doesn't have to be overly expensive.
800 crowns.
800 crowns.
I just need to process that.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, buy less.
Yeah. You can find ones for less as well.
You can find one for less. I think I have one of my favorite ball gowns is, I think, cost about 100 grams.
Ooh.
I saved mine for like the weekend before. So.
There you go. You can look like a royal for less than 800 crowns.
There you go.
I lost the question there. What is a typical program for an evening at a student ball in Lund?
Well, it depends on how old, I would say, how old the traditions surrounding the ball are. For most nation organized balls, there's usually the beginning where it's a pre-drink and then an order ceremony, which is when you get initiated to whatever order is associated with the ball. That is a very cool kind of like more of like a secret usually for every nation. There's different rituals. In some you have to peel potatoes. In others you might have to stand there while people sing to you. There's a lot of different traditions there. That usually lasts about an hour or two, depending on how extensive the rituals are. Of course, no sacrifices. And then after that, you proceed to the dinner. Usually the dinner starts about 7 p.m. And it's a 3-course meal with about an hour for every course. And in between there's a bunch of entertainment. It could be entertainment in the form of speeches. Usually some or other old member of whatever organization will stand up and say a few words. There's a lot of organizations will bring bands to perform mid dinner. It's very beautiful. I think I went to a ball that had a cheerleading performance.
Oh, that's cool.
It was very cool. I was very scared. Yeah. Because I was right next to the stage where they were jumping up and down. But it was very, very cool. I think I've seen balls with fire shows. Also very cool. Also kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once the dinner part of this whole thing is over, there's usually some kind of pause where everyone exits the main hall, and then there's an after party.
Yeah.
And the after party is kind of separated into a bunch of different categories. Usually, like there's a part in the beginning of the after party for the alumni, so that they can in which usually the music is more classical music and more like ballroom dancing music. So then, you know, all the older people that kind of remember dancing, like ballroom dancing, will dance together for like a couple of, like, it's usually 30 minutes to like 45 minutes. Yeah. And then after that, the real after party opens.
That's when you kick off your heels and you put on your Converse.
Exactly. Yes. And you switch shoes. Usually you might even wear a different dress.
There's no dress code goes out the window at that point.
The dress code goes out the window or lowers one grade. So for most people, it will go from white tie to black tie or just dark suit. Yes. And then you could just let loose. You can dance. You can have fun with your friends. The bar opens. So it's kind of like a club experience, but in a fancier room.
Okay. Yeah. The after party.
The after party.
And there's a lot of traditions, songs, and toasts, which usually take place during the dinner, correct?
Yeah. It's normal in Lund that you get like a little program when you show up to something, which is great because there is a lot of singing at events like this. And most of the singing will be in Swedish. But nobody really minds because you're surrounded by other people who are singing. For me, I was surrounded by plenty of Swedes who could lead the way. And there's plenty of other international students who were stumbling through the Swedish with me. And that's the thing. It's a really fun environment where you don't take yourself too seriously. Nobody really cares. So there is singing and there is a song leader who is in charge of basically leading the whole ballroom in the singing. And most of the songs are pre-selected. So that is always a really fun time as well. So if you don't speak Swedish, it's okay. Like the words are there in front of you and it's okay if you butcher them. One of my favorite traditions, I actually didn't know about it when I went to this ball, but now I know, should I ever go to another, you traditionally bring like a gift for your seat partner, which I didn't know. So my seat partners were very, very sweet. They were all from other nations, like on board. So they all had gifts for me and I had to apologize. But they were totally cool. Like, they were totally fine with it. But yeah, you get like a little, like a gift. So box of cookies, a chocolate bar, a bubble, like shooter gun or something. It doesn't have to be something crazy. And you give that to your partner. And I thought that was so cute.
And sometimes on table presents, because that's what they're called, and there's different rules that you might get sent the couple days before, along with a brief schedule and like the dress code. You might get sent, oh, in this ball you are allowed to bring a table gift, but please avoid anything that will be disturbing, so anything that will make loud noises. Sometimes they'll tell you don't bring any bubble machines. They do tend to get a bit annoying when they get into your food. But yeah, overall, I think there's usually the rule of thumb is anything that's like cheaper than, like, it shouldn't cost more than maybe 40 crowns max. Because this has to be a small gift and just something just like for fun. I think I've gotten way too many Resorb, which is like the little like energy booster for after a party night. One time I think one of my friends got a tiny excavating kit.
That's so cute.
It was so cute. It made a mess all over the table. We had fun. The marshal at our table hated us.
There's always one.
And what are some of the most iconic student ball locations in Lund?
Well, we've already mentioned one. We've mentioned two, actually. We have AF Borgen, which is, I think, roughly translates to AF Castle. It's it's Lund University's society building. It's mostly used as a venue. It has a bunch of different halls, some smaller, some bigger, and a bunch of stages as well. So you can do perfect theaters. It's perfect. It's beautiful, and it's right in the middle of Lund, so that's also really accessible. And then there's the Grand Hotel, which is just a normal hotel, but it's very beautiful inside. Super fancy. And there, I think, usually there's smaller balls. I think AF Borgen usually can fit up to at least 510 guests. Grand Hotel, I think the max is 200 to 300. So it really depends on what size you're looking for. And I think that's it on like iconic ball locations. There's definitely some societies that might have smaller balls in like rooms that are rented or like secret caves and things like that. But yeah.
Secret cave.
I was going to say, I know that Luleå University has a secret cave. I know that
not secret caves per se, but definitely secret rooms and halls and places that you wouldn't necessarily think to find.
Little hidey holes. Yeah.
And what preparations are needed before going to a ball, from tickets to outfits and gathering friends?
It's, for tickets, balls can be quite popular. So it's important, if you know that you want to go to one and you see the tickets released, you should jump on that as soon as possible, because they will sell out. Most of the time they do sell out quite quickly. So if you know that you want to go and you know you have friends that want to go, figure out when you're going to buy your tickets and buy them together as quickly as possible. For me, my kind of way around that was marshalling, which is a volunteer position at the ball. As Kleia mentioned, you get a discount and you also get a guaranteed ticket to the ball because you're partially working it. So that's something to consider as well. Oftentimes they're always looking for help. So it's always good to put your name out there, and it's a great way to meet new people. So for tickets, I will say balls are a little bit more expensive than some of the other activities that you'll find in Sweden. I would say the average ticket probably cost around 1,000 crowns.
Approximately,
yeah. So about $100 or like 90 euros, which is quite expensive. But once you see what you get out of the ball, you understand why it's so expensive. Like, it's a 3-course meal. The plate setting, you have like 3 different plates and like a bunch of different silverware and 12 different glasses. So it makes sense. After you see it, it makes sense why you've paid that much. As far as outfits, I think we've covered that fairly well.
Yeah, get yours ahead of time.
Yeah, be prepared, and you can get yours for 100 instead of 800 crowns. And then gathering friends. How does it work if you want to sit with your friends for sitting?
Well, for balls specifically, usually when you fill out the application form or the sign-up form, usually it'll have a question kind of stated something like, oh, which person would you like to sit with, or seat partners or seating preferences? And then you can choose, you can write your friend's name. I always suggest wrangling your friends to go with you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've been to balls where I've been the only one of my friends attending, and that wasn't as fun because I'm not as social when I'm around people I don't know. Of course, if you're very, very excited to meet new people, that's always very fun. You can go alone. But especially for a first ball, I always recommend going with a friend so you have someone to kind of talk to and experience it. Yes. So I think that would be my first step, actually. Whenever I hear of a ball that I really want to attend, I check with all of my friends, okay, who's going?
Yeah.
And then once the sign up is out, I will write in, I want to be around these people.
Yeah.
And the ball organizers usually take this into consideration. We try our best. So sometimes you might end up not being next to your seating preference, but you might be across or you might be nearby. And that's still good.
Yeah. Just to have somebody you can make eye contact with when someone starts singing a song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
How does a ball differ from a typical sittning? And what is a sittning for those that don't know?
I hope Tim does a part 2 of this podcast because sittnings are...
They're a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. We definitely should. Sittnings are amazing. They're one of my favorites. But I would say a ball is like an extra fancy version of a sitting. So the sitting might have a dress code as well, but the dress code might be something like in the past I've dressed up as a pirate, a potato. I've dressed up as like a retiree old person. There are endless themes for the sitting. So if you're walking around at night in Lund and you see something like somebody not in fancy ball attire, but in a Teletubby outfit, they're probably off to a sitting. It's much cheaper than a ball. A sitting might cost 300 crowns instead of the 1,000 crowns. And yeah, it's still like a sit-down meal with 3 courses, but it's not like the 18 silverware pieces in front of you. It's a little bit lower key, and they're not normally held in large venues like AF Borgen. They're probably in the student nations, like conference room, for example.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I think another difference between balls and sittings is that sittings happen very often.
Yeah.
And they, like you said, they happen in smaller venues, but balls have to kind of happen in bigger venues because there's so many people attending them. And also balls are kind of tied more to like orders. So you get a medal that you get to pin on your dress or your tailcoat after, and that's kind of a memoir of like a memorabilia of like, yes, I've attended this and now I'm initiated into this order. Whereas for sittings, it's just like, yeah, you went to a 3-course dinner. Yeah, that's good for you.
Yeah. Super fun. Do recommend.
Super fun. Do recommend. There are always fancy sittings to go to.
Yeah.
Where you might dress up as in dark suit or black tie.
Yeah.
But they're again a lot cheaper, and just a bit more cozy, I would say.
They're more relaxed. Yeah, they're more relaxed. Yeah.
There's not as many dress code rules.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's a dress code, but if you show up in like slightly off dress code, no one's gonna kick you out or stop you from attending.
It's more relaxed.
It's more relaxed.
Yeah.
Is there anything else either of you would like to mention about student balls in Lund?
I would just say, if you're thinking on it, do it. Like I said, there are opportunities as an alumni where you may have the option to attend a ball, but it is just different when you're a student. Being surrounded by new people and like this historical environment in this beautiful building, it really is unmatched. And I think it's something I really would have regretted had I not done it. So it is one of my top recommendations, like go to a ball if you are a Lund University student, because it's got to be on the bucket list.
It's got to be on the bucket list. They don't happen in many other countries, I'd say. So it's a very unique experience for at least, I'd say, Sweden and maybe some other Nordic countries.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Thank you. Super fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And you can connect with our amazing student ambassadors on Unibuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.